what's happening around the world
and what's happening here at home. A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News coming to you live and direct from our Newsfirst studios here in Colombo, bringing you the news. I'm Mariam Ganavijaya.
And I'm Sandra Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
The defeated have begun their politics of levelling false accusations. Will establish a strong government with the power of the people. President Anura stresses in Putlam.
ජනතාවගේ විශාලතම විශ්වාසය දිනාගත්තු ආණ්ඩු බවට පරිවර්තනය වෙනවා. ජනතාවගේ විශ්වාසය දිනපතා එකතු කරගන්න ආණ්ඩු බවට පත් වෙනවා. ඒක තමයි මේ ආණ්ඩු ඉදිරියට යන මාවත කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා. 3 suspects arrested for attempting to disturb the peace in Arugambe. Minister of Public Security assures the general public that the country is safe. Arugambe Tourist Association suspect that issuance of warnings to tourists in the area was a political move.
අපිට පෙන්නේ හෙටියට මේක දේශපාලන කතාවක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. මොකද අපි ඒ තරමට අරන් යන්න නැතුව ඩොලර්ස් ටික නවත ගත්තා. මේ වාගේ නිවුස් සුද්ධ ලංකාවට එන්නේ නේ. අද අරුගම්බේ. හෙට පුළුවන් සවුන්ඩ් ඩවුන් සවුත් වල පුළුවන්. ඊගානිත කොළඹට පුළුවන්. ඒ වගේම තමයි මෙසේජ් එක ස්ප්‍රෙඩ් වෙන්නේ. Namal Rajapaksa provides a statement to the CID for 2.5 hours. Travel across the central and western seas of the Bay of Bengal will be dangerous today and tomorrow.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Starting off with news here at home, President Anura Dissanayake said that the safety of all people in the country has been assured. He made these remarks while addressing a rally in Puttalam today.
A public rally was held this afternoon with the participation of the candidates of the National People's Power contesting for the parliamentary election.
Sri Lanka ජනතාව එකම පොකුණක් ලෙස එකට මෙතෙක් ලංකාවට සංචාරකයෝ ආපු වැඩිම අවුරුද්ද බවට අපි 2025 වසර පත් කරමු. අපි දන්නවා මේ වෙනකොට ලෝකේ යම් යුද ගැටුමක් නිර්මාණය.
We will make 2025 the year with the highest number of tourist arrivals in Sri Lanka. We know that there is an ongoing war globally and the tensions are spreading around the world. Such threats are also present in Sri Lanka at this time. It was reported 2 weeks ago that potential threats could arise here as well. We took swift measures to ensure the safety of the people in those areas. We do not hold media briefings immediately after receiving information from intelligence units. Our responsibility is to take swift action based on that intelligence to ensure the safety of all citizens. We took immediate action to implement security measures in these areas. We launched investigations right away based on the intelligence information and were able to arrest a few suspects as well. However, there were no news or media briefings. What is our responsibility? If there are any potential threats, it is our responsibility as a government to take all necessary action to prevent those incidents from ever occurring and protect our people. What happened in the past was either there was no attention given to such information or it was spread by the media causing disruptions in society. We did not panic. Instead, we systematically ensured the safety of all people in the country. We held discussions with the police, intelligence services and security forces. On some days, we had meetings twice, even at night. We utilized technology. We consistently monitored the situation and took all necessary measures as a government to prevent such incidents. But some people have panicked. Similar situations are currently occurring around the world and there is a risk of such incidents occurring in Sri Lanka as well. However, some are trying to sensationalize this by raising questions like why wasn't this information shared earlier and why weren't security measures deployed sooner? We do not wait to inform everyone before taking necessary action. We have implemented every possible step to ensure the safety of our citizens. That is a true government. This is a government that prioritizes the welfare of its people in every aspect, both economically and in terms of security. We need to focus on the education of our children and support businesses and working people and help them thrive. The National People's Power government is dedicated to caring for everyone. Some are saying that we will fall after 6 months. I saw the former president saying during a media briefing that he allocated funds to increase salaries. He is insisting that either the salaries must be increased or details on what happened to those funds must be revealed. The president says that he allocated the money, but no money has been allocated. Even though he hasn't allocated funds, the current government is focused on increasing salaries of state sector employees. Stay at home since you lost. Don't disrupt us. You won't be able to make the National People's Power government fall. We will rebuild this country. There are some things that they say because they are sad, but know that nothing that they can say can affect our government. This government has gained the people's trust. Every day we are earning their blessing and support. That is the path that we're on.
කුඩා බලපෑමක් වත් කරන්න බෑ. මේක ජනතාවගේ විශාලතම විශ්වාසය දිනාගත්තු ආණ්ඩුව බවට පරිවර්තනය වෙනවා. ජනතාවගේ විශ්වාසය දිනපතා එකතු කරගන්න ආණ්ඩුව බවට පත් වෙනවා. ඒක තමයි මේ ආණ්ඩුව ඉදිරියට යන මාවත කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා.
Minister of Public Security Vijitha Herath says that the safety of the tourists and the general public has been ensured. He added that 3 suspects have been arrested for their involvement in an attempt to disturb the peace in Arugambe.
The United States Embassy in Sri Lanka had issued a travel advisory to all US citizens, advising them to refrain from travelling to Arugambe as there was credible information of an imminent attack. Subsequently, countries including Israel, Britain, Canada and Australia had also issued similar travel advisories. Minister of Public Security Vijitha Herath stressed that steps had been taken to beef up security over the past several weeks in areas including Arugambe that has a high number of Israeli nationals. The Minister of Public Security went on to note that during the 1-month period after coming into power, the National Security Council had met and discussed the possible threat that a group could disturb the peace in Arugambe on several occasions.
අදට හරියටම මේ ආණ්ඩුව බලයට පත් වෙලා මාසෙයි. මේ මාසය තුල ආරක්ෂක මණ්ඩලයේ අවස්ථා කීපයක්ම රැස් වුණා. ඒ පළමුවන
It's been exactly a month since the government has come into power. During that month, the Security Council met on several occasions. Intelligence units had reported information on these matters to the Security Council. Thereby, as soon as we received this information, we took steps to provide special police protection to areas with a high density of foreign tourists, including Arugambe, Alla, Bandarawala, Valigama, Mathara and the Ahungalla coast. We have taken steps to provide this special police protection from the start of this month. At the Security Council, these matters were discussed in depth and investigations into the matter were launched through the intelligence units and the police. Based on information revealed during the investigations, 3 suspects have been arrested. The 3 suspects are being interrogated to ascertain whether they had some involvement in attempting to disturb the peace. In the meantime, very strong steps were taken on the part of the police. By the evening day before yesterday, based on the information the foreign intelligence, the President, the Inspector General of Police, myself, the Prime Minister held discussions with the chief officers who are conducting the investigations. After those discussions were imposed, more strict security measures were imposed that night. Last morning at 7 a.m., a special meeting of the National Security Council was convened. It was chaired by the President and the Prime Minister. Myself and security officials were in attendance. We took several decisions at that special meeting of the Security Council. We had taken steps from the beginning to deploy the tri-forces for these operations. This situation had arisen against a backdrop where the anniversary of the war in the Middle East was being observed and several Israeli festivals were to be celebrated. These Israeli tourists, together with several other Israelis who were in Sri Lanka, had organized several events to celebrate. These people were together at several locations and the suspicion was that a disturbance was going to be created at these gatherings. It is on that suspicion that we took the relevant steps. We have taken all necessary measures.
යම් කැළඹිලිකාරී තත්වයක් ඇති කරනවා කියන සැකය තමයි ඇත්තටම අනාවරණය වුණේ. ඒ සැකයත් එක්ක තමයි අපි ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගත්තේ. නිසා දැනට ඒ සියලුම ක්‍රියාමාර්ග අපි අරගෙන තියෙනවා.
At the media briefing, the minister stressed that the diplomatic interventions on the matter were also made well in advance.
රාජ්‍යතාන්ත්‍රික වශයෙන්ුත් මේ පිළිබඳව මැදිහත් වීම කරා ඇමරිකානු තානාපතිවරිය මගින් අපි සාකච්ඡා කරා. ඒ වගේම
There was diplomatic involvement in the matter. We held discussions through the US ambassador. We have exchanged these information with ambassadors and diplomats of other countries. We did not inform the general public of such an incident in advance because these information that we received should be clear and credible details. Until those information were confirmed, there was no requirement for us to inform the general public because we had already taken all necessary security measures. If we had not taken the necessary security measures and our response was delayed, then that would have been an issue. As the government, the police and the security forces, we have taken all necessary measures to ensure the safety of all foreign tourists. We request the foreign tourists and inform them that there is no need to panic. We have already informed tourist hotels and other institutions in the tourism sector to employ necessary security measures, conduct the necessary searches. We have informed the general public to provide any information to the number that has been provided. Do not attempt to use these incidents to intimidate and gain political mileage. We would like to stress on this matter to several politicians since we as a responsible government have taken all necessary security measures. We request the general public not to be deceived by rumors. Do not spread rumors and further escalate the situation that would result in a crisis. There has been no stop to the influx of tourists. Israeli nationals had landed in the country even on the day before yesterday. Therefore, there is no issue like that. Those engaging in the tourism sector are carrying on their business without any interruption. There has been no obstructions. Therefore, we have brought this situation under control and taken all necessary measures.
ඒවට බාධාවක් වෙලා නැහැ. ඉතින් මේ තත්ත්වය දැනටමත් අපි පාලනය කරලා අවශ්‍ය පියවර උපරිමයෙන් අරගෙන තියෙනවා.
මේ ප්‍රධාන ධාරාවේ මාධ්‍ය සමහරවිට වාර්තා කරනවා මේක ඉන්දිය බුද්ධ්‍යංශයකින් ලැබුණු තොරතුරක් සහ ලක්ෂ 50 දෙකක් දීලා පුද්ගල දෙන්නෙක් එවලා තියෙනවා කියලා වාර්තා කරා. මේ තොරතුරු පොලිස් මාධ්‍ය ප්‍රකාශකවරයා හෝ පොලිස්පතිවරයාගෙන් තොරව අරගෙන මාධ්‍ය වාර්තා කිරීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් මම වගේ අදහසක් දෙනවා.
අතරම ඉන්දිය බුද්ධ්‍යංශ මගෙන් එහෙම දෙයක් සිද්ධ වුණේ නැහැ. ඒක වැරදි ප්‍රවෘත්තියක්, සම්පූර්ණ වැරදි ප්‍රවෘත්තියක්. මේ මාධ්‍ය ආයතන වලට මේ වෙනකොටත් අපි නිවැරදි කිරීම කරන්න කියලා දැනුම් දුන්නා. ඒ වගේම ඔය මුදල් ප්‍රමාණයන් ඒවා නිවැරදි නැහැ. ඒවා සම්පූර්ණ වැරදි. ඒ නිසා අපි මාධ්‍ය වලින් ඊටම වක්කීමෙන් ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා මේ තත්ත්වයේ මත යම් වැරදි ප්‍රවෘත්ති ප්‍රචාරය කරන්න එපා. මොකද ඒකෙන් ජනතාව කලබල වෙනවා. ඒ නිසා පරිස්සමෙන් වගකීම් සහගතව ප්‍රචාරය කරන්න කියන ඉල්ලීමත් ඊටම ඕනෑකමින් කරනවා.
මේ පුද්ගලයන් අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්න අවස්ථාවේදී සුපුරුද්දාවේ හෝ ආර්යවරුන්ගේ
නෑ එහෙම කිසිවක් වුන් සතුව තිබිලා නැහැ. ඒ සැක පිට අත්අඩංගුවට අරන්. තහවුරු වීම සඳහා වෙච්ච පරීක්ෂණ කෙරෙමින් යනවා. ඒ නිසා තාම මෙහෙම කරා, මෙහෙම හිටියා, මෙහෙම කරන්න හිටියා අවල් දවසේ කියලා එහෙම තොරතුරු අනාවරණ වෙලා නැහැ. ඒ නිසා මේ තොරතුරු පිළිබඳවත් අපිට හරියටම තව කාලයක් ඕනි ඒ තොරතුරු නිවැරදි කියලා දැනගන්න. අත්අඩංගුවට ගත්ත පමණින්
අන්තවාදී සංවිධානයේ මොකද සම්බන්ධයක් තිබිච්ච කට්ටිය කියලා එන්දරවක් කියලා තියෙනවා.
එහෙම සංවිධානවල මූලිකව විදිහට ක්‍රියා කරනවා කියලා නැහැ.
A special security protocol has been implemented today in Arugambe. Measures including searches, roadblocks and specialized aerial surveillance by the Air Force are currently active.
Okay, hi, I'm Saskia. I'm here for 5 days and everything is normal. I feel safe. We can surf. Yeah, everybody should come here to Arugambe. Yeah, we stay here and we feel safe because there's a lot of military and yeah, everything normal. Yeah, everything is fine.
Soldiers here, I don't really know why because I don't see what's the trouble here.
How the situation now?
I feel the situation here is calm. It's quiet. So yeah, I don't know. I've heard a lot of stuff, but can't really see it. You know. At first I didn't really know why they said that, and I was of course getting a little bit stressed, but yeah, after I talked to people and people are not that nervous, so I don't see the problem.
This is what hotel owners in the area had to say.
අත්වශයෙන්ම ඉතාමත් හොඳ සීසන් එකක් කියන්නේ අරුගම්බෙට මේ අවුරුද්දේ ඉවර වුණා ඔක්තෝබර් 1 වෙනිදායින් පස්සේ අරුගම්බේ තවමත් විදේශිකයෝ ඉන්නවා. ඒ විදේශිකයන්ට කිසිම කරදරයක් නැතුව මෙහි ජීවත් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒක හදලා දීලා තියෙන්නේ ත්‍රිවිධ හමුදාව. ඉතින් අපි ආපහු ඒගොල්ලන්ට ස්තුති කරනවා. ඒ වගේම මෙහි කිසිම ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැතුව අපි සියලු කටයුතු ටික කරගෙන යනවා.
Special security measures have also been implemented at hotels in Arugambe where Israeli nationals are staying.
අරුගම්බේ සීසන් එක ඉවර වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. සීසන් ඉවරුණාට අනිත්
The season in Arugambe has concluded. Although this season has ended, other seasons are beginning in the down south. This could potentially be a political move. Our dollar inflow will reduce if tourists don't visit Sri Lanka. Tomorrow, this could affect the down south, and the day after, Colombo. That's how the message spreads. If foreigners stop coming to Sri Lanka, what will happen to us? No jobs, no income, we will face economic challenges.
රස්සාවනේ අපි ආයෙ වටිනවා මේ economically.
In addition to Arugambe, special security protocols were also active today in Nalla. In the southern province, roadblocks have been set up today to enhance security in tourist attraction areas. Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau has extended an open invitation to foreign tourists to visit Sri Lanka with confidence during the upcoming tourist season. The Ministry of Defence has also assured the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau that necessary measures have been taken to guarantee the safety of tourists across all areas of the country, ensuring peace of mind for those currently staying in Sri Lanka and for those planning their visits. Tourists facing any security concerns can contact Sri Lankan authorities via the emergency hotline 1997. During an emergency, tourists can inform the Deputy Inspector General of the Police Marine and Tourist Range, Damayanti Vijayashree, via the number 071-859-2651.
The Australian government provided a Royal Australian Air Force surveillance aircraft, Beechcraft King Air 350, to the Sri Lanka Air Force today.
The Australian government today provided a Royal Australian Air Force surveillance aircraft, Beechcraft King Air 350, to the Sri Lanka Air Force on a gratis basis. The aircraft will expand SLAF's aerial maritime surveillance and renaissance capabilities and contribute to Sri Lanka's ongoing efforts in maintaining a peaceful and secure Indian Ocean region.
Indian security forces have launched a comprehensive investigation into a series of hoax bomb threats targeting over 85 Indian Air Services flights within the past 24 hours. Indian media reported that in the past week, about 170 flights belonging to airlines in India had received such fake calls.
Indian media reported that during the past 24 hours, a total of 85 aircraft from 4 major airlines, Air India, Indigo, Vistara and Akasa, received false distress calls claiming bombs were on board. The incident comes as the Indian government is set to introduce stricter measures against those who make such threats. Proposed legislation aims to expand the no-fly list to include individuals convicted of related offences and impose penalties for bomb hoaxers. Indian media also reported that Delhi police has identified 8 locations from where the calls originated. One such threat was received by Vistara flight that landed at the Bandaranaike International Airport at 2:55 p.m. today. A thorough search of the aircraft found no suspicious items and all passengers and crew were deemed safe. Meanwhile, Indian media reported that 3 social media accounts have been identified as the sources of the false information that triggered the initial alert.
The CID recorded statements from former Minister Namal Rajapaksa regarding a case filed during the government of good governance involving the receipt of money from a Malaysian businessman.
In 2011 to 2012, the Criminal Investigation Department had launched an investigation based on an incident where a Malaysian businessman had given an amount of about $100 million to the country's MPs based on a complaint submitted during the government of good governance. Investigations were conducted for about 2 hours regarding this matter, with Namal Rajapaksa, who showed up at the department this morning.
The reason for my arrival here today is a claim stating that during the period from 2010 to 2015, a man visited me and gave me some money. An anonymous complained. According to this anonymous complaint, money was given to me at my office. I am being inquired about it. I am respectfully asking you all not to use us to slander us, and not to bring us to the police, and not to bring us to a place where we are prisoned. Do not divert the minds of the people and turn away from the promise made to the people. Given the government's behavior that needs to be checked, we need to think more on the matter of bringing up an anonymous complaint during an election claiming that they gave money in a room during the 2010-15 period. We have no problem with this because the government has to work.
වෙනසක් නම් පේන්නේ නැහැ මොකද ඒ කාලේ එන්න කියපුවටම තමයි තාම වෙන්න ප්‍රශ්න කරන්නේ. දැන් ජනාධිපතිවරයා කිව්වා හොරු අල්ලනවා හැබැයි කෙන්දිරි ගන්න නම් එපා කියලා. නෑ ඒකනේ කෙන්දිරි ගන්න නැතුව ආවේ. මම කෙන්දිරි ගන්න නැතුව ආවේ ජනාධිපතිතුමාගේ වචනේ අහක දාන්න බැරි නිසා.
Former State Minister of Prisons Lohan Ratwate appeared before the Anuradhapura Magistrates Court today over an incident where he had entered the Anuradhapura prison and threatened an inmate at gunpoint. This incident was reported on the 12th of September 2021, and the preliminary report containing evidence of the inmate being threatened at gunpoint has been tendered to court. The case was taken up before the Anuradhapura Chief Magistrate Nalaka Sanjeeva Jayasuriya, and the matter was refixed on the 30th of January next year for further trial.
ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨ අධිකරණයේ දැන් නඩුවක් පවත්වනවා. එහිදී දුන් උපදේශයට අනුව තමයි නීතිපති.
There is an action that has been filed in the Supreme Court. It is based on the direction given by the Supreme Court in that matter that the case has been filed by the Attorney General. Two witnesses had come to court today. Since the defendant said that the statements and investigation reports of the incident had not been provided to them, these reports were handed over to them today. The matter was refixed for the 30th of January next year.
Over the past few days, we have highlighted several factors that have contributed to the current state of affairs of Sri Lanka. Here is another reminder.
What happened to Sri Lanka?
Sri Lanka is facing economic turmoil for various reasons, and a key part of this problem lies with financial governance, which is the responsibility of Parliament and the Constitution. This cannot be ignored. So why did this happen? Corruption, fraud and inefficiency are at the heart of the issue. Do you remember the sugar tax scam? Sri Lanka consumes about 500,000 metric tons of sugar each year. While we produce around 100,000 metric tons domestically, we still need to import sugar to meet demand. By October 2020, the price of sugar per kilogram had risen to over 130 rupees. To help reduce prices, the government lowered the special commodity levy on sugar from 50 rupees to 25 cents on the 13th of October 2020. During this time, sugar importers had stockpiled around 90,000 metric tons after paying the original tax. However, just 2 weeks later, on the 27th of October, the government announced it could not reduce retail prices and decided to raise the special commodity levy back to 40 rupees. This new tax wouldn't take effect until a month later, meaning it couldn't be enforced between the 13th of October and the 13th of November. During this window, one particular importer brought in 100,000 metric tons of sugar, benefiting from the lower tax. So, who benefited during this time? From the 14th of October 2020 to the 20th of February 2021, a total of 320,000 metric tons of sugar was imported. While 67 companies were involved, one importer accounted for about 40% of the total. This importer sold over 10,000 metric tons of sugar to Sirasa, a state-run retail chain, at prices between 125 rupees and 127 rupees per kilogram. Sirasa then sold this sugar to the public for just 85 rupees. This deal resulted in significant losses. A report from the Financial Crimes Investigation Division revealed that the government lost over 15 billion rupees due to this scam. The FCID had been tasked with finding a way to recover this tax. At the time, the Minister of Finance said that the measures would be taken to enforce tax collection, but it remains unclear if even a cent of tax was ever collected. The sugar scam occurred more than 4 years ago. Have any recommendations from the audit's report been implemented? These issues have led to a loss of revenue for the country. Even now, shouldn't we take steps to recover these funds and prevent similar problems in the future?
The power of the people.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Conquering the grand finale of Sri Lankan reality, emerging victorious in the ultimate battle of extraordinary talent. We crown the unbeatable champion.
Sri Lanka's Got Talent Season 2 Grand Finale. Jaya Grahakya Ravindra Kumara.
Ravindra Kumara, congratulations, our remarkable winner.
A trusted place for your fixed deposit. Valuable FD, a symbol of stability.
Welcome back. The International Monetary Fund said that debt restructuring is not the end. More needs to be done in terms of continuing with the reforms. Krishna Srinivasan, IMF Director for the Asia Pacific Department, speaking to reporters, added that there is consensus from the new government that they would like to safeguard and build on the hard-won gains under the program.
Sri Lanka is currently on a IMF-supported program for 48 months. Is the IMF having any long-term support program for Sri Lanka, given that the debt restructuring is also in its final stages? And just 48 hours ago at the Group of 24 press briefing, we had the director of G24 saying that countries like Sri Lanka, the middle-income countries, should also have something similar to a common framework, and there should be timely debt reduction measures also in place. What is the IMF's position on these two aspects? Thank you.
Thank you. Quite a few questions. Let me try to answer all of them. So, when the new government took office not too long ago, I led a high-level team to Colombo to discuss to engage with the authorities. And we had some very, very productive discussions with the new government and the team there. And the discussions are continuing this week during the annual meetings. Now, there was broad consensus, I would say unanimous consensus, that Sri Lanka, which was staring at the abyss in 2022, has come a long way in terms of undertaking reforms which have led to some hard-won gains. As you'll note that growth has been positive the last 4 quarters, inflation is coming down. So there was consensus that the new government, from the new government, that they would like to safeguard and build on the hard-won gains under the program. Now, under the program, we have elements which address some of the priorities of the new government, including in terms of social protection and so on. But the details on the program are continuing, and they'll be happening this week in Washington. And we are encouraged by what we've heard so far, and hoping that we can move fast with the towards the third review, which will come up soon. Now, in terms of there was a question on the debt restructuring. They have reached agreements with the official creditors, and they've reached an agreement in principle with the private creditors. The next step would be to reach a formal agreement with all creditors, and that's a big step forward. And of course, that's not the end. There's a lot more work to be done in terms of continuing with the reforms, because a long way to go before you're on a path of strong and sustainable recovery. In terms of the macro-linked bonds, this is something which is a negotiation between the country's creditors, the country's advisors, and the creditors. We don't get involved in the kind of instruments that they negotiate on, and so on and so forth. What we are concerned about is whether these instruments and the restructuring they reach are one that consistent with our program targets on debt and so on, and that there's comparability of treatment across creditors. So that's something which the country works on. Now, you're right that these macro-linked bonds have become popular, and so it all depends country to country how the creditors and advisors go about it.
Meanwhile, Kristalina Georgieva, the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, emphasized the need for decisive action on inflation, debt and pro-growth reforms to steer the global economy through the current challenges.
Shifting focus to global fiscal policy, Georgieva stressed that countries must act now to address debt and deficits following years of fiscal stimulus in response to economic shocks.
First, ensure that inflation gets back to target everywhere. Major central banks, including in the US, have rightly embarked on an easing path. The trick now is to finish the job on inflation without unnecessarily damaging the job market. Second, now is the time to act on debt and deficits. After years of much needed fiscal support in response to shocks, now is the time to rebuild fiscal buffers. In most countries that can be done gradually, but it needs to start now. Third and most important, it is crucial that countries carry out pro-growth reforms. From cutting red tape to improving governance, we have seen reforms being a source of significant benefits across countries. Our analysis shows that these reforms can boost output by up to 8% over 4 years in developing countries. On debt, we are making progress under the G20 common framework to speed up debt restructurings. The Global Sovereign Debt Roundtable that met yesterday is helping to make the process more predictable and efficient. But we need to do more to help countries in debt distress get back on their feet faster. Many of our members still face high interest rates and high debt servicing costs. Not unsustainable debt, but significant liquidity problems. And this is why, jointly with the World Bank, we are proposing a three-pillar response, combining reforms to boost growth and mobilize domestic resources, adequate financing, including from international financial institutions, and crowding in private finance. And finally, on trade, it is important to protect the gains from economic integration while ensuring they are widely shared. We know that globalization has not delivered for everyone, and we must attend to the needs of those who have lost out. And at the same time, we must ensure that trade remains an engine of global growth, especially for developing countries. They have so much more to lose if we fracture the global economy. At the IMF, we are, as always, deeply committed to serving our members so they navigate these challenging times. And we will do so through our analysis and policy advice. It helps policymakers to understand the costs and benefits of policy choices, and we will continue to use our financial resources to act as a buffer for our members in need. 97 countries, highest in our history, have benefited from our lending since the pandemic, the majority through multi-year programs. During the same period, our concessional loans have tripled. Interest in the Resilience and Sustainability Facility continues to grow. We have 20 countries now using the facility to enhance their climate resilience, almost double the number when we met a year ago.
Meanwhile, the IMF announced in the Fiscal Monetary Report released in Washington, D.C., that global debt is on a path to top total world GDP by the end of the decade. The IMF sees the global economy growing with 3.2% growth predicted, but that should be a cushion period for governments to make spending adjustments to bring down deficits and debt.
Deficits are high and global public debt is very high, rising and risky. Global public debt is projected to go above $100 trillion this year. At the current pace, the global debt to GDP ratio will approach 100% by the end of the decade, rising above the pandemic peak. Additional efforts are necessary. Delaying adjustment is costly and risky. Kicking the can down the road won't do. Time to act is now. The likelihood of soft landing has increased. Monetary policy has already started to ease in major economies. Unemployment is low in many countries. And therefore, given these circumstances, most economies are well positioned to deal with fiscal adjustment. But it does matter how it's done. What's the bottom line? Public debt is very high, rising and risky. The time is now to pivot towards a gradual, sustained and people-focused fiscal adjustment.
16 fisherfolk who illegally entered the Sea of Sri Lanka have been detained until the 6th of November. Meanwhile, a joint working group meeting addressing the Indo-Lanka fishing controversy is scheduled to take place in Colombo on the 29th of October.
The Sri Lanka Navy has apprehended 16 fishermen who illegally entered the Sea of Sri Lanka. According to Navy spokesperson Captain Gayan Vikramasuriya, the fishermen were arrested while on board 2 fishing vessels, each carrying 8 individuals off the coast of Delft Island in Jaffna. Reports indicate that this year alone 450 Indian fishermen have been arrested and 61 boats have been impounded in Sri Lankan waters. Meanwhile, a joint working group meeting with officials from both nations is set for the 29th of October in Colombo. According to the Ministry of Fisheries, a 12-member delegation led by the Secretary of India's Ministry of Fisheries will arrive in Sri Lanka on the 28th of October. This delegation will include officials from the Indian central government and representatives from the Tamil Nadu Department of Fisheries.
U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chung, met with representatives of the Tamil National People's Front today.
A discussion was held today in Jaffna between U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Julie Chung, leader of the Tamil National People's Front, Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam, and the party secretary, Selvaraja Gajendran.
We mainly
discussed the election, including the government's actions and our views on them, the ideas and the divisions in Tamil politics, and how these factors will affect the final result of the election. She questioned us about why we are divided, and we provide her with a clear answer. The 13th Amendment and the issue of a unitary state were the reasons we broke away from the TNA. We remain firm on this because they do not change in principle. We informed her that when this occurred, we were unsure why they are still divided.
Meanwhile, the U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka met with representatives of several Tamil political parties last evening. The U.S. Ambassador also met with former ITAC MP Sri Dharan and the leader of the People's Liberation Organization of Tamil Eelam, Dharmalingam Siddharthan today.
The Court of Appeal today issued an order preventing the Acting Inspector General of Police and the Director of the Criminal Investigations Department from arresting former parliamentarian J. Sri Ranga over an incident where derogatory posters of the Manor High Court judge were put up. The order was issued when an anticipatory bail application filed by former Minister J. Sri Ranga, indicating that there is an attempt to arrest him over this incident, was taken up in court today. The Court of Appeal also ordered former parliamentarian J. Sri Ranga to appear before the Colombo Crimes Division within the next 48 hours and provide a statement regarding the incident.
Sri Lanka decides. Sri Lanka decides.
Leader of the Tamil National People's Front, Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam, was arrested in Jaffna today over allegations of violating election laws.
Leader of the Tamil National People's Front, Gajendra Kumar Ponnambalam, was canvassing in Nelliyadi, Jaffna when police arrested him. Police arrested him over the claims that he conducted campaign activities violating election laws. He was later released on police bail. Meanwhile, leader of the National Congress, former MP ALM Ataullah, was produced before court today. He faces allegations of organizing a rally on the 17th of October and violating election laws. The Akarepattu Magistrates Court ordered his release on 2 personal bails of 50,000 rupees each.
News First with the people.
A warning has been issued advising naval and fishing communities to refrain from venturing into the sea areas of the central and northern coastal regions of the Bay of Bengal.
A warning has been issued due to the severe cyclonic storm Dana over the central and northwestern Bay of Bengal, which is likely to move towards India tomorrow. The Met Department advises those in the affected sea regions to return to the coast or move to safer areas immediately. Meanwhile, heavy rainfall last night caused the Kirama River to overflow, flooding Makandura along the Kamburupitiya-Mulatiana road. Newsfirst correspondents reported that heavy rainfall in the upper and middle catchments of the Nilvala River has resulted in the river currently being at a minor flood level. Panadugama along the Akurasa-Siembalagoda road has been submerged, disrupting vehicular movement. Flooding of the Modara River has submerged 2 locations on the road to Kokmaduwa entrance of the Southern Expressway from Valigama Kananke. Heavy rainfall has also affected several communities in Putlam. About 20 houses in Putlam, Samagi Mavata, Kolithissa Mavata and Ananda Mavata have been impacted by the floods, along with the residents in Mundalama, Kalpitiya, Nathandiya, Mahaveva and Venapua.
The Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka hosted its annual convocation at the Banda Nayaka Memorial International Conference Hall today.
The Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka hosted its annual convocation where a total of 381 new candidates were awarded the ACA designation, recognizing them as Chartered Accountants today. Additionally, 66 individuals were honored with the prestigious FCA status. The event was attended by key stakeholders and professionals in the field.
British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Andrew Patrick highlighted that Sri Lanka has progressed from being the 3rd largest transnational education partner of the United Kingdom to being the 2nd in just 1 year. An event was held yesterday to celebrate the achievements of providers of Pearson BTEC qualifications in Sri Lanka. British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka Andrew Patrick and others attended the event.
In the time that I have been here, just in 1 year, Sri Lanka has moved from being the 3rd largest transnational education partner of the United Kingdom to being the 2nd. And considering the relative size of Sri Lanka, that is an extraordinary statistic. And there are some 45,000 Sri Lankan students at undergraduate level studying here in partnership with British universities. That credit belongs to the people in this room who have nurtured that relationship, and it has grown organically without very much support from the British government. And that's a wonderful thing to celebrate. Now, I hope it will continue to grow organically. We are going to have a new government here in Sri Lanka, and I will be working with you to ensure they also understand the benefits of this continuing to grow.
A presentation of awards and mementos took place at the event as well.
At least 5 people have been killed and 22 injured in an attack at the headquarters of an aviation company near the Turkish capital, Ankara.
Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya said 2 attackers, a woman and a man, have been neutralized, adding that the attack had most likely involved Kurdish rebel group, the PKK. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. Turkey's defense ministry announced late on Wednesday that airstrikes had been launched at Kurdish rebel targets in northern Iraq and northern Syria. Various videos from the attack early on Wednesday show at least 2 people firing guns around the entrance of Turkish Aerospace Industries, which is located some 40 kilometers outside the capital. The PKK is a banned terrorist organization in Turkey, the US and the UK, and has been fighting against the Turkish state since the 1980s for greater rights for the country's significant Kurdish minority.
Sri Lanka is making its mark on the international motorsport stage as Evan David and Rian Dharmadasa represent Sri Lanka at the 3rd edition of the FIA Motorsport Games in Valencia.
The 3rd edition of the FIA Motorsport Games commenced with a dazzling opening ceremony in Spain yesterday. A total of 646 competitors from 82 nations are vying for glory in this year's competition. Sri Lanka's Yevan David and Rayan Dharmadasa are representing Sri Lanka in the Formula 4 and karting sprint junior categories respectively.
Yevan David is flying the Sri Lanka flag in Formula 4. Sri Lanka is also representing in eSport F4 and karting sprint junior.
The high-octane competition will continue until the 27th of October.
And with that, we wrap up news for tonight.
Thank you very much for watching. Good night and take care.